The Ramble On, talking media to death and diving into spoilers with Brendan.
And Nick, an autopsy for the sinners, an ascension for the saints of film and television. Alright, welcome to the Ramble On.
Alright, Ramble On time. I have a lot to ramble anyway.
Yeah, go for it. Honestly, I think that for myself, I'm going to be a little bit quieter this time because as much as I like this movie, I don't think it was quite on the level of Midsommar for interesting.
Yes, I think there's a lot to break down in sort of a different sense than Midsommar.
There is.
I'm going to go summer.
So we found we found a lot of complex themes with that movie. This is just Quentin Tarantino. It's just a totally different style than what you're used to for a lot of films, and I think that's where it just becomes interesting in itself. And I think there's a lot to break down.
There is.
In that sense.
Now, before we go any further, I do want to address two things. One, we will be doing spoilers.
Absolutely.
Two, so Nick saw the movie before Tom and I did, and we get a text from him saying, "Goddamn Tarantino's foot fetish," and which that made Tom and I curious. But until we saw the movie for ourselves,
yes,
we see what he means.
He has had a history of this in the past. Things like the infamous foot rubbing scene in Pulp Fiction, some infamous shots from Kill Bill, what have you, these kinds of things. But this is a movie where it's really in your face and upfront. In particular, there's one scene I'm thinking of, which is when Cliff, who is played by Brad Pitt, of course, picks up the young girl in the car. I think she's called Flower Child.
No,
Pussy something.
Oh yeah, Pussy Wagon, something like that.
That's it.
But he picks her up, and first thing we see, foot mashed right into the window.
Oh yeah, no, and it's a hippie commune. So what do you see? A whole bunch of feet, and
yeah,
it's just an exposition of legs and feet.
I think the most explicit one in the movie is there's one side character who's Sharon Tate, played by Margot Robbie, who when she's in the theater, the way she sits is she props up her feet, and her feet take up more of the screen than she does.
The guy loves feet. This is just this never became more apparent to me after seeing this film.
It's equal parts like, what are you doing, man, and kind of just playing Where's Waldo at this point with
right.
him.
Yeah, so Quentin loves his feet. So let's talk about the story.
Yeah,
let's get into it because it is a expansive story.
It really is.
I think it's expansive, but kind of threadbare as well. It's just a movie about making movies.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so Tom kind of said, right, Tarantino leads you by the nose, trying to get you to say, oh, this is the plot of the movie.
Except he doesn't know where the plot is because there's like three different plot threads at the same time.
Yeah, when I say expansive, it is really that there's just, you're following multiple characters, like threads throughout this film, and it gets a little hard to follow, which, I suppose it's part of his style, is trying to come back to things later on and sort of like weaving it together.
Right. I won't bring it up a lot, but it's a lot like Pulp Fiction, where you do have like 4 or 5 different plots all running at the same time that kind of intersect here and there.
Yeah.
Except it just focuses a lot more on these two dudes, Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio's character.
Cliff and the
Rick.
Manson family. No, Cliff and the Manson family, and Rick and his movie he's shooting.
Yep. That's a good way to kind of break out the two. You're following this struggling actor, and again, this is like the synopsis says, it's the final years of the Hollywood's golden age, and this movie has kind of been described as Quentin Tarantino's sort of like tribute to that, and so you see like it's very much following the ups and downs of, and going through like the scenes that Rick is shooting, and his struggles with acting, and his path going to Europe for some movies and coming back, and so you see all that happen, and then on the flip side, you see this like the start of these sort of darker things that are happening, and sort of like, again, it's what was going on in Hollywood, I guess, in this era.
Yeah.
It's got, at least for me, kind of a fever dream feel to it in some places.
It does.
Where like you feel like there's a plot, but it's so meandering and it's so hyper focused on the characters and their emotional state that there's not really plot points that happen per se. Like the whole thing with Rick is just, he goes to a movie, he acts in it, and then we get a 6-month time skip afterwards. Like it's fun, and it's fun watching him in the movie, and
Yeah.
him, like having this kind of little breakdown of like. Goes this thriller, throws some shit around, threatens to kill himself a few times.
Yeah.
Wants to quit drinking, takes a shot to get ready for the next scene, throws out the liquor.
Yeah.
No, it keeps going back and forth between the follies of a struggling actor trying to stay relevant, and then it also goes back to Brad Pitt, who beats up hippies, but
Yeah, and
just the one. Well, actually 4. Well, no, never mind.
That's later.
That's later.
Yeah, so you have all this happening, and then you see Sharon Tate, so Margot Robbie's character, is sort of going through sort of her day to day.
She just goes to see a movie. That's
Yeah,
all she does this movie. She goes to see a movie.
She goes to see a movie, and she's seeing the movie that she was in. But it's there to establish her, I guess, and it really in real life, she's the one. Her and I think there was like 3 or 4 other people, were the ones that got killed. And in this movie, as the story goes on, you see the Manson family come back. They try to kill Cliff and Rick. Doesn't go so well
Cliff
for them.
just beats the shit out of them.
And I think that kind of it's one of those things without knowing sort of the real history behind what the movie is going through and some of the characters, it loses its impact. And I think the movie already is sort of confusing, right, with the way that the story and the evolves. But without knowing that, I think it is even harder. And so since then, I didn't know a lot of it. I've read up on it since seeing it last night, and it definitely makes more sense after knowing those things. It's easier to kind of like piece it together and be like, wow, okay, so this is like, knowing what actually happened in real life, you kind of get to like experience Quentin Tarantino's like alternate reality, which is interesting. But it kind of is dependent on knowing those things. So I think that to come into this movie without that is, I think it loses a lot of its impact.
Right. Now, this is not fair to do the movie, but I want to reach back to an earlier release. I think it was not this year, it was last year. Bad Times at the El Royale, which is another movie that deals with the Manson family.
Oh, yeah, I didn't see that one.
Wait, the Manson family was also in that movie?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
But I want to reach back and kind of start asking, like, of the Manson family movies, because there's been kind of a trend of bringing them in as, like, the villains of movies here and there. Does this one really work as a Manson family movie?
Not really. I mean, they're so transient.
They definitely feel ancillary to the plot. I agree.
Well, I don't think that is necessarily it's not a Manson movie, but it's a movie about the end of the Hollywood's golden age. And this, I think, from reading about it, this killing that they did, this murder, was really, I think, what started to crumble. Like, people were shocked by it, and I think that. People viewed Hollywood as this just great, amazing, like just everything great happened there, and this was like this dark thing that just came out of nowhere, seemingly, and I think it's just a part of that era because of that. So I think it's not necessarily that this is a Manson movie, but those sort of acts that they did and they committed were part of the sort of this end of the golden age in Hollywood.
In some ways, the age is still. I mean, the Hollywood dream is still alive and well. It's just that there's still that disillusionment.
Well, absolutely, but this is referring to specifically this golden age, and I think the golden age is talking about like they were just coming out with like these,
wonderful, unique movies.
And it was just like I think that might have been the start of just like these like your typical classic stars and. People were like going in mass to see movies. I think it was a lot of the start of. Just the peak of, or maybe it was like sort of the peak of like what you think of like archetypical classic Hollywood was this sort of era.
Mm-hmm.
Now, speaking of classic Hollywood, Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt, casting them specifically,
Well, I think so. Quentin likes both of them because I think they've both been in past. They've both been in past films. Maybe not Brad Pitt, but.
Brad Pitt's been in some.
Maybe, yeah.
Stuff,
He was in. Yeah. I think he was in Glorious Bastards. Wasn't
he may have been, yeah. He was in.
So they're both some of his. But yeah, totally. I mean, they are some of the biggest stars in Hollywood. Yeah, they're to see them playing. It definitely is a sort of.
I mean, you kind of get the feeling that Leo just kills Nazis because Brad got to kill Nazis. How come I don't get to kill Nazis?
Right. It's Leonardo DiCaprio being his hammy self,
But the flamethrower.
Yeah.
It's a funny gag.
It is.
But, okay, follow-up question then. With the Manson family, are they just the butt of the joke in this movie?
Oh, totally. I think so.
Maybe.
Because they're not really intimidating in almost any way in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of just punching bags for the most part.
Yeah.
And when they come at the end with like the knives and guns, there's not even a real sense of fear because they get taken out so effortlessly.
Mm-hmm.
And so brutally, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if it's a joke or if that just really is. I mean, because I don't think these people were like. It's not like they were like trained killers or anything. They were like these fucking.
They were the devil themselves.
They were
devil shit.
They they were sort of brainwashed. They were literally brainwashed, like young kids who like, wanted to join this guy.
Kids that were hopped up on something.
Yeah. So, but I mean that is the point, right? I guess this is like
Everyone was doing it.
Yeah, trying to be like the alternate reality where like they got their asses kicked before they actually did anything bad or something.
Yeah, the alternate reality of the intruders actually die instead of the residents.
So that's the ending is just a classic Tarantino. It's what I was waiting for. I think most of the movie was this like just gnarly scene, and you see this family, these quote unquote family, these Manson members, cult members come up, and they just get wrecked by Cliff's dog, by Rick. And it does. I mean, it was what an ending. Talk about a pool party. Like
this movie has some weird Chekhov's guns they use though. Like they set up like the flamethrower early on. It's just like a throwaway gag, and then he brings it back later.
Yes.
They set up like this acid cigarette about like 5 minutes before it's used.
Right.
Oh yeah, the acid cigarette. Right.
Like they make this big deal about like I want to put this in your cigarette case.
Yeah.
Don't smoke it like a regular cigarette.
Yeah.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and then he doesn't.
Yeah.
That is his thing. He likes to come back to stuff that are just so significant.
I mean, that's Chekhov's guns, but this is set up like it's a really big, important Chekhov's gun where it's like just nothing. it's nothing.
He just smokes it, yeah. I mean, he whoops the...
Well, I think there's like a note of like, he just smoked the cigarette, and when they come in, maybe initially, he's like, am I tripping? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, he has some vague sense of like, oh no, the one guy who can fight is actually out of it.
Well, that's too, yeah.
And then he just kicks their asses anyway. That's fine.
Yes.
Just speaking of kicking their asses, what about the fight with not Bruce Lee?
Oh
my
yeah.
goodness. What a great scene for that actor. Like, for him when he was initially going through and saying, like, he was talking about his, like, whatever his initial monologue was, yeah. It was great.
If I fight you and kill you accidentally.
It was a great scene, and it was actually, like, I don't think it was kind of like a tracking shot just because there was a long monologue, but I like that a lot, and then, just see,
I love the hard cut to the car. Mm-hmm. That's one of my favorite hard cuts I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
What did you do to my car? What the fuck did you do to her car?
Threw him into it.
Yeah. And that's just the part of this where it's just like, this movie just, so much shit has happened. Like, it's all over the place a bit.
It really is.
Which,
you're at the Bunny Mansion with Steve McQueen. Then you're fighting Bruce Lee.
Yes.
If you saw trailers before this, what did you go in expecting?
Oh, I had no fucking clue. I mean, they did a good job in telling me what not the plot was, so...
Yeah, I don't know if I even saw the trailer, honestly.
I know that I was expecting almost like kind of a Kill Bill meets hippies kind of thing, where like you can imagine the movie, right? Like like these actors like get kidnapped or something, and like they're terrified of Rick because they think like, oh, he's the guy from all the action movies, he's going to kick her ass, and they don't realize that he has a stunt double who's Cliff. So like Rick has to do like all this like fighting, and then Cliff has to do like all the real fighting while he's fighting like a guy or something, like these kinds of scenes.
Oh yeah,
right.
Totally.
That's why I imagined. So I didn't expect it to be such a slow burn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it really is like this. As much as possible, it was like bringing in all these, especially around, the Roman Polanski, Sharon Tate sort of thing, where the people at that time in Hollywood, like Bruce Lee, Steve McQueen, JC, bring all those actual people, sort of trying to bring them in whatever way that he could. To like sort of build up this just picture of what was actually happening, what was in these people's lives around this time, who did they know,
right?
What was going on, like, so there's a lot of that going on, just world building or something. I don't know.
Right.
I feel like there's places where Tarantino's opinion bleeds in here and there too. Like the fight with Bruce Lee, where like Bruce Lee just gets his ass kicked.
Oh yeah, I don't know what that is about.
It's like I don't think Bruce Lee would really get his ass kicked. He was probably one of the greatest martial artists
Right.
of all
I don't
time.
know. Yeah, I feel like that is. That's so yeah. What was actually meant by that?
I think he was like really kind of playing up the small man complex with him, which I don't know why he would do that for Bruce Lee. It seems like it's weirdly personal.
It does, yeah.
I don't know if it was that or if it was just really trying to like show Cliff as just like this fucking
old school
bad dude, like badass, like kind of not.
Oh, he is
guy.
bad.
Just trying to build up like that part of it, maybe.
Cliff was just kind of an unkillable monster in this movie.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Cliff. Yeah, I just.
Brad Pitt being Brad Pitt, an unkillable machine in all of these movies.
Not usually what Brad Pitt is.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, I do remember Brad Pitt dying once in one other film.
Yeah, he was in 12 Monkeys.
Yeah. Oh god.
Now you mentioned before, Brendan, that you had a few themes you wanted to tackle and talk about.
Yeah, so I mean, I felt like so I wanted to touch up on some of the themes. So I felt like this was kind of a folly of youth, you know. I mean, like you look at this movie, you look how people behaved back then, you kind of think, I could kind of draw parallels for what's going on right now, right? You know, I mean, like you still see old celebrities still trying to cling to what made them famous in the first place, all while trying to stay relevant. And you see all kinds of youth culture, causing shenanigans, getting into rough shit and what have yous, and having these dreams and delusions of grandeur, but ultimately having it go south. Margaret Robbie's character, you know, she was in a few scenes, but she never quite made it as big as Rick, Leonardo DiCaprio's character, you know.
Well. It might have been something that happened that shortened her ability in IRL.
Oh yeah, that. But I think that's the overall vibe I was kind of getting from this movie. This Leonardo DiCaprio character just still trying to stay relevant, while clinging to what made him famous in the first place. Like, do you know who I am? I am that guy from Bounty Lawns and whatever.
Where he's making a big thing about how are they going to know it's me?
Yeah.
Well, ideally, they're not.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, in sort of like in that isolated Rick Cliff part of the story, that's what I felt too. But then like larger, like looking at the movie overall, it's one of those where it really is just a sort of retelling. It's this like dream-like, I mean, it is alternate reality retelling of real life. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what else you draw from that.
I guess biggest theme, I think I mentioned it in the American Recut briefly, but I think the biggest theme is just shit works out.
Yeah,
it does.
It's got a little bit of a Big Lebowski-ish vibe here and there. It doesn't have the tight story of Big Lebowski, but it does have a similar vibe.
I agree.
Things happen.
It felt like a Coen Brothers film where, stuff happens and either it gets resolved or it just doesn't, I
don't think it felt like a Coen Brothers movie. It still felt like a Tarantino movie through and through.
Yeah.
But it had that kind of Lebowski-ish plot.
Yeah.
But, let me see. That's pretty much what I wanted to touch up on specifically. Brad Pitt's character I struggled with because he's a guy who was convicted of killing his wife, who then
he probably killed her on purpose.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah,
totally.
let's talk about characters. Yeah, so
Brad Pitt.
Yep.
Cliff I loved as a character despite him being a horrible person.
Yeah.
I liked Rick too. Cliff and Rick both.
They play off each other really nicely.
Yeah, and I mean. Seems like so they're based off of real life people or a combination of different people. Mm-hmm. I guess in Rick's case it might have been a character that was played, so maybe not so much real, but but yeah, I mean it's just they were both strong, interesting characters who you wanted to kind of see like what's going to happen next with these guys.
Right. They had good, strong chemistry. They were good, yeah.
Rick's a lot of fun as kind of a vaguely zen character with a horrible temper.
Yes.
Because he's the guy he lives in a trailer, he lives with his dog, he doesn't seem to particularly care for romance, he's smart enough not to go for the first person that hits on him.
Right.
He's a simple guy.
He's a simple guy, he knows what he wants. and he's pretty open to a lot of things, but he won't take shit.
No, he does not take shit.
Except when he does, because he's on set and he can't say no.
And Rick, although he's the sort of like the leading man, is sort of like not like that.
He's such a bleeding heart in this movie. Like,
Yeah.
everything gets under his skin. I love it.
Yeah. It's great. Yeah, they're both great, fun characters.
Like, it gets under his skin when he doesn't have any work to do. He gets under his skin when he does have work to do. He gets under his skin when he's asked to take on different roles. It gets under his skin when he reads a cowboy book. Like, everything gets under his skin, and I love it.
Yeah, and he finally sort of gets to be a badass in the end with the flamethrower.
Also, how do you burn alive in a pool? Like, how, I mean...
Napalm is a scary thing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
dude.
that's a good point. I didn't think of that. Oh, shit. Oh, no. Oh, no. Everyone else, though, so Margaret Robbie, everyone else, they're kind of transient, but they're, like Nick said, how do you describe it? Ancillary to the whole plot. You know, I mean, they play important roles in the main protagonist's lives.
I mean, there's the Italian wife.
Yeah, she's there.
She exists.
Yeah, it gets into this ensemble cast of like just so many characters come throughout this.
They're all played by very famous people: Al Pacino, Luke Perry, Margaret Robbie, all these like Kurt Russell, a lot of them.
There's a lot of people in this movie.
Lewis.
Yeah,
so I mean, so those are the main characters. We have the sort of the side characters. We have the people based off of real life characters. So I think Quentin was trying to recreate like a fairly like realistic version of these characters for the most part.
Right.
Yeah, and this definitely does feel like a day in the life type movie where it's not really about like a plot per se, but more about following these characters and their motivations.
Yeah, and as far as like, I mean, again, going back to that synopsis, it does, I think, from what I've seen and what I've heard, I mean, it's just really trying to capture that golden age, and it seems to do that.
Right. That was his goal. He wanted to bring back 60s culture, and he wanted to put a movie in a 60s setting, and he did that by bringing real-life characters from the 60s into this movie.
And he does do it, I think, and kind of like what you were saying earlier, Nick, where sort of like some of his, Tarantino's like opinions, and sort of like this, maybe like, I don't know, the romantic view of things, or sort of like this. It definitely, it's not like, so maybe not the realistic per se, but it's sort of like
interpretation.
An interpretation of the golden age.
Yeah, Tarantino's definitely there. And that's always been kind of his voice, is that he's very opinionated. He knows what he wants to put in his movie, and by God, he will put it there. And for better or worse, that is Tarantino's voice. He has a striking style. That's one of the reasons why he's one of very few directors left who you really know when he makes a movie.
Right.
Yeah.
I can respect that. I mean, he does. I don't think Hollywood's ever really put much of a rein on him at all. I don't think.
No.
Well, I think he has even. It sounds like he has even more rein now because of the switch to Sony. Sony gave him like apparently Sony gave him like the final director's cut for every movie.
Holy shit!
Or the final control over things, which I guess is a normal.
Given Tarantino, yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, lots of characters. As far as the effects, I think basically we said everything we want to say in the
you know what to expect. High quality
recut. Yeah, I mean, again, I was most impressed by just the recreation of the '60s, like or really late '60s. I mean, they got from the cars, the costumes, the sets, like
that is worth talking about too. Is especially for the filmmaking techniques, because there is kind of a grainy filter of like as if like using like the kind of late '60s, early '70s, old
16 millimeter or whatever they're talking about. Yeah,
dusted that off.
It's got that slightly lower frame rate that comes from that. It's got. They also mess with the aspect ratio sometimes.
They did.
When they show like
a lot of
when they show clips from like older stuff like made from like the early '60s, late '50s, they mess with the aspect ratio. They put it in different colors. They wash out the colors a bit. There's some cool stuff with that.
There is, and and that I think helps you kind of like pull you in and feel like, wow, this is like really like
if nothing else, it's fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
It reminds you what movies were like back then.
Yes, it did.
I will say one thing that is more of a story thing that I haven't mentioned, but I'd like to, is just I like that for flashbacks. Quentin just goes straight back into the flashback. Like there's not really indication of what's about to happen. It's just boom, they start talking about something, and it's like the next scene of what's like he killed his wife, and then he's on the boat with his wife or whatever. And then even like the sort of like the imagining of where you see was it Cliff on the roof trying to fix things, and he's thinking about like what if he was on the set. I think that might have been the whole like fight with
Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, nope, yeah, wouldn't do that. Like it's all like a dream sequence or something.
That's right.
At least I think it was. I don't even know.
I think you're right.
So it's just I like that he does that. I think that's it's a quirky thing to do, but it seemed to work. So
it is, yeah.
It's weird though, because I got kind of this Family Guy-ish vibe in the first half of the movie or so, where
that's true.
The movie just didn't have a real like attention span, so it would just jump back and forth between whatever he was thinking about.
Right, those cutaways, him and Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah, there's a fine line, and I agree. Too much of it wouldn't be great. So yeah,
it definitely didn't get annoying, but I did get the same vibes.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And we talked briefly about themes for a bit here, which is that the themes, if there are themes, are kind of very nebulous themes, not specific.
Yeah.
The one last thing I will say about this movie the soundtrack was awesome. I love that kind of music. I love that hippy dippy music. Those are my jams.
I was 50-50 on the soundtrack. There were places where I liked it and places where I was kind of taken out of the movie by it. Like, this is a little bit much.
Yeah, I think I kind of felt the same thing too, where some of it was a little bit excessive, or just didn't really fit the scene, or didn't seem to fit the scene.
But granted, that's partly because a lot of it was supposed to be in media res, so this was supposed to be stuff that just existed in the movie. It was like being listened to on the radio and stuff, so it wouldn't fit. But at the same time, I wasn't crazy about it.
Right. Yeah.
Beyond that, do we have anything else to talk about with this movie?
I've got nothing else. If you want to just get to our final summaries.
I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed the movie quite a bit. Would I see it in theaters? Meh.
All right. Tom?
Yeah, so I think, overall, as far as Tarantino movies go, it's not my favorite, but it is a movie that you would I don't know what expect, but it's a quirky, strange movie in the way that the plot unravels itself, in the way that certain scenes are filmed, in the way that it does those weird sort of flashbacks or theoretical like dreamlike type stuff. And so in that sense, I think it's a good movie to see just because it is so different, and that's really all of Tarantino's movies are just so different. And so as long as you have that in mind, and I think knowing a little bit about what's actually this sort of the real golden age and what the real era that Quentin was sort of like writing about, I think that it's something that is an enjoyable watch to an extent, but I'm kind of with Brendan, where it's something that I don't know if I'd watch again. I think it's great to watch in theaters. So overall, if you're a fan of Tarantino, go see the movie. If you're not as big of a fan, probably could take it or leave it.
I think I would say that this is a movie that is positively dripping with Tarantino's style. It's extremely stylish. Everything feels like it's done with a lot of love and the craft of it, with a lot of love and the themes, and trying to match things with the time period. There's a lot of passion going into this movie. This definitely feels like a Tarantino passion project. Whether or not that translates to it being one of the better movies I've seen this year, I'm not sure. It's not my personal favorite. It doesn't have that tight story I usually like. It doesn't have as much ways to pick you up during the slow parts of the movie as I would have liked. And it is a plotting movie. That's very much a pants movie, where you do just kind of follow the characters as you follow their emotions. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, I'd say if you can get into the characters, and if you can get into following them, listening to them, and sympathizing with them, you'll probably have a decent time with this movie. For me, I've started feeling the time after a certain point, but this is a movie where I think that I'd recommend it the first time, and then after that, if you want to really just have a fun, kind of Easter egg thing where you can spot the different references he's making, the different time periods, the different things he's doing, go for it. But this is a hard second watch.
That's a good point. That is a movie chock full of Easter eggs. I never thought of it like that until now.
Yeah, I think you're dead on, Nick. I mean, it really is a Quentin Tarantino's love letter to the late '60s in Hollywood, and you can tell. There's just so much. There is really so much detail, so much just breakdown of everything about the era, and it's more important than the plot.
It's definitely a movie where I feel like this was a movie that Tarantino made for Tarantino. This was not made for anyone in the audience. Because I feel this is his big passion project. This is the big thing he wanted to make for years, and he finally got to make it. So good for him.
Yeah, good for him.
Yep.
All right, well, this has been Brendan.
This has been Nick.
And this is Tom.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.